buy bees from a supplier, it will either come in, these are kind of new on the market. I like them because they're really easy to clean and reuse. They've got 2 vents on either side. And when you pick up your bees, you have to come really early in the morning or late at night or while it's raining, just so that when you take that hive with you, you get all the foragers, and you know, you want a decent sized colony when you're starting out. So it's June 16th, and this colony, like I said before, it's a starter colony, meaning it will get to the point where it can winter, but it will not make you honey, especially if you're starting with new equipment. Okay. On the market, they have 5-frame or 4-frame nucs. The price will vary depending on how many frames are in the box. I started selling strictly 5 frames this year because it gives you a better chance of getting that hive to be ready for winter, depending on what can happen with the season. So when you pick it up, bring it home, and I always advise people to just set it where the colony is going to live, right? And then this little this thing slides down to close and open to let the bees out. So the first thing you want to do when you get your colony to your hive spot in the apiary is just lift that up, let them settle down for a couple hours if it's in the morning, and then you can hive them, you know, I would say around 11 or 12 that day. If you pick it up at night, set it down. Nobody wants to do this work in the dark or with a headlamp. I don't recommend it. So wait until the next day, but it's just nice to open them so that they can get airflow and in and out more. All right, so then when you go to actually put your nuc inside the box, you're gonna need 5 additional frames to fill out a 10-frame box. It comes with 5. Here are your 5 new frames. This is your bottom board. You'd set it on your hive stand. I'm just using a bee box for right now. Entrance reducer, I like to keep on the smallest opening until they grow into that second box. It just helps them defend themselves better while they're a smaller colony. So then you put your deep on the bottom board. Sometimes these entrance reducers can be a little snug, so we'll fix that in a minute. I have a little, on my tool, I have just like a little saw that I can shave that down. All right, so then you want to leave space for the 5 frames that are in here to go in the middle. You want your brood nest to be in the middle of the box, but I'm also going to show you how to encourage the bees to build on your new frames, because they come in this core unit and sometimes they won't pass over the outside honey frame. So I'll show you that. Just going to take this out for a little extra room, and then I'll move this in front so you all can see. So this is a nice big healthy 5-frame nuc. If you open it up and there aren't bees all over it, then you might want to think about, you know, why is that not there? Yeah. I just bonked, I looked for the queen first, but then I bonked the bees from the lid on top there. And then where's that smoker at? You don't need a ton of smoke, but just to get them out of the way. This first outside frame, they're pretty snug in here so that they don't flap around, which is good for transport. And then we're going to pull out our first frame. And lovely, very much covered in bees. I'm going to take a quick look for the queen, but you don't have to see her right away. It's better to just get them in their new home. And I'm going to push this all the way to the end. Next frame is a beautiful frame of sealed brood. And then I do see my queen with the green dot. 2024 is green. And you can all see she's crawling around on there. She was. She on the other side. Yes. Okay. Don't take your eyes off the queen while you're doing this, just for teaching purposes. Okay? And now that you know where she is, you don't have to worry as much, but doesn't mean you shouldn't still be gentle. Another frame of brood, and then there's open frame with larva. Looks good. And then again, she's laid up all of these open frames here. So the next time we go into this colony, you should see all of that capped over. And then within the next 10 days, those bees will emerge and then your hive will expand. And then the last frame should be a honey frame on the outside. Yep. So now, just to get them started on this process, I'm just going to move one frame in that's new and put my honey frame on the outside there. And then I'm just going to push everybody together. Put your last frame in. Okay. And then you can go ahead and bonk the rest of the bees into the top. All right. And you want to hold on to these. If you give these back to me, or if you give this back to me without these, that box is useless because it needs those for the frames to stay on. And then because you are starting with new equipment and it helps with stress, you want to give them some food. This is 1-to-1 sugar syrup, and I make these at home myself. And you just take a drill and drill little holes in the bucket lid. You can buy these from the beekeeping supply companies, and they'll actually cut a hole out and then glue a screen in. They're nice. I recommend them. This one, you have to make sure the holes aren't propolized shut like this one. And then you would need like just something to poke through. And then when you're putting your feeder on, you're gonna tilt it, and because my holes are clogged, we're gonna fix this. The syrup will run out, and then it'll kind of just stop dripping because of capillary force keeps the liquid from running out. And you put it on top of that inner cover hole.
Could I do that today with my my mason jar?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then to keep critters and other robbers out and to allow protection for that bucket, you add your empty deep from what your hive would grow into and put the lid on. And so this is now a contained unit. They have access to food, but other bees don't have access to that food, which is very important. And you want to keep refilling this bucket until they grow into those 10 frames. And you'll add a second box. And if you may or may not be able to fill out that second box, but I would continue to feed, because after like mid-July, it's harder for them to draw out comb because the main nectar flow has ended. And the fall nectar flow, they can draw comb on it, but it's a little bit of a gamble. And then on my website, there's a video on if they don't fill out the second deep after you add it, you can consolidate those bees into one single deep and make sure they're up to weight, and then you can winter them in one deep successfully. Any questions?
Do you add any type of supplement to the bees?
There's like you said, your bees found pollen right away. It depends on like how fast you want them to grow. We are in a very pollen rich area, so I leave that up to the beekeeper whether or not they want to buy the pollen patty. It's soy protein. We usually don't have an issue with pollen, so it's really up to the beekeeper. Yeah.
How long do you leave the bucket of syrup?
You check it about once a week and then keep feeding or refilling it until they've filled that up, and you're gonna add your second box. Does that make sense?
And you move the feed up with it, or are you done with
You
the
would
feed?
move the feed up to the second box if you have brand new frames. Let's say that you have equipment left over from a previous year and all the frames are drawn. You wouldn't need to feed them in that second box because they don't need to draw out the equipment. It's really important. The only reason for that feeding is to be able to draw out that comb faster. Yeah. You're giving them a leg up on the amount of time that's left in the season. So, all right.